Tahoe fans, you're in luck because Tahiti is getting some work done today. So I managed to get the Tahoe in the garage here. It is super, super tight, but there is enough room to work. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm literally wedged between the toolbox and the wall over there. But today we're going to be doing rear brakes as well as the rotors, and we're going to repair the parking brake. I just got the new tires put on this thing, which you guys haven't seen yet. I'm going to do a little reveal in a second. But when the tires are being replaced, I took a look at the back brakes. The rotors are really glazed over and the pads are very, very low. And any of you guys who've been here since the beginning of this project, when I did the first shakedown, this thing had new pads and rotors all the way around. Back pads had plenty of meat. They were at least like 8mm. Now they're probably down to like maybe 2 or 3. I don't know if that's just the way I drive or there's just a more of a bias towards the rear on these, because I also noticed that the brake dust seems to accumulate a lot more on the back wheels than the front. The fronts will have like nothing and the backs just get black. Being it is a Z71, I wanted to kind of keep an AT tire on it, but I didn't want something super aggressive that was going to be kind of a hard ride and have a lot of road noise. So I think this is a really good compromise. It's a Continental, so it's kind of like a softer riding, more of like a luxury tire, but at the same time it is an AT. It's mildly aggressive, you know, you could tell by the tread blocks here that it is an AT tire. And just having the 275, oh my God, it made a world of difference just driving on the road. We don't have kind of the tread bulging over this way anymore. It's a lot narrower, and it does have some good sidewall because this is a 275/65 18. Before I had a 305/60, so there is a good chunk of meat on the side, which I really like the look of that. But I paid $950 for the set of 4. I also went and changed the TPMS sensors while the rims were off. That's another story. I'll get to that in a second. And one thing to know, if you want to go and order these yourself, they sell 2 versions on Tire Rack. They have one set with the tread wear rating with about 600, I believe. Those are the ones I picked up here. Then the other set have no tread wear rating. And it turns out that one set or one tire in the Continental Terrain is like a heavier duty load range. So essentially something you would put on like a 2500 or like a plumber's van or something. So you can hold, you know, more cargo. It's supposed to be on something like a plumber's van or like a 2500 or up, something that you're gonna have a lot of load in the back. And I'm glad I looked closely at that because that's not what I wanted, because that's gonna ride a little bit firmer. And this is a 1500, you know, just kind of a soccer mom SUV. I don't need a really heavy duty tire on this thing. And this is classified as a 1500. They do make these, well, not Tahoes. I think they make like the Yukons in 2500s. I think you could have got a diesel in some of them. But something like that is what you would want to put the heavier load range tire on. So coming back here, you can see what I mean with the brake dust. Rotors are pretty glazed. Brake dust all over the place. We go up to the front. Not nearly as much. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. Because when I got this thing, I mean, granted, I put 10,000 miles on it, or just about, I think like 9,500 miles. Since I got it, and I made that video last, I think December I made it. So they could have just been shitty brake pads and, you know, they just wore down quick. But the reason I'm actually putting the rotors on, I was just gonna do kind of a pad slap for the winter. I mean, you can see they are glazed over, but the main reason I'm changing them is because the parking brake doesn't work in this. And you guys remember when I did the shakedown kind of checkout video on this, this thing just goes to the floor. There's absolutely no tension on it, so I have no idea what's going on with it. So here's everything we're going to be using today. I picked up a couple of rotors from AutoZone, as well as the parking brake shoes, parking brake hardware kit, because I'm not exactly sure what is in there. I mean, none of this stuff can actually be in there, and that's why the brake doesn't do jack shit when you press on it. And then a set of ceramic pads. I have no preference with this. I mean, if I had my choice, I would go with AC Delco all the time, but unfortunately people rarely carry AC Delco pads and rotors. Usually you can get them on Rock Auto without a problem, but just like AutoZone, Advance, everybody kind of has their own brand. Unless you find a mom and pop kind of place, even then they usually carry Wagner, which is a good brand. But to me, Wagner, these Duralast Golds, they're all the same to me. They have this kind of black coating on them so they don't rust in the middle. And all this stuff cost me about 200 bucks. The rotors I think were 50 bucks each. The pads were about $50. The shoes were I think like 40, and then the kit I think may have been 20 bucks. I actually have to jack this thing up, take the tires off, and then lower it on the jack stands because I can't get high enough with the garage door open. And if I lower it down now, the tires just hit the ground before it hits the jack stand. These rotors really aren't that old. There's no ridge or anything on them, but see what I mean with the pads? They are kind of low. I think the other side was even lower. That's the side that I checked. I'm going to pull the caliper off. We'll take a close look at the pads, pop off the rotor, and we'll see what's going on with that parking brake. Super light calipers. Those are aluminum. All right, well, our pads aren't stuck, at least. Yeah, these are kind of low. We actually have a crack down here. And when I checked this thing out about 10,000 miles ago, these were literally like out here. They were brand freaking new. I don't know how it ate through back brakes so quick. Also, the bracket bolts are 18s. Caliper bolts are 12s. I'm really curious to see what's going on with the parking brake, because that thing has like no resistance. The cables and everything are here, but you press on it, it just goes straight to the floor. Huh. All right, well, we have some stuff in here. It looks like they're constantly rubbing. That is really shiny and grooved, even though the parking brake doesn't work. I'm gonna press on it. Let's see what it does. It looks like it's moving. All right, I guess it's just missing all the friction material, so there's too big of a space for it to actually do anything. Backing plate. It's a little rotted, just a little bit. Do I have backing plates? No. Do I feel like replacing them? No. Should I probably replace them? No. Yeah. We got nothing left on this one. That's how it should look. Kind of. There's a little piece up here. Now to change these backing plates, I'm relatively sure you got to pull the axle. So I'd have to pop the diff cover, pull the axle out. This bracket has to come off, and then it's kind of sandwiched between the axle and the bracket. Yeah, I don't really have time for that now. So I'm just going to let it fly for now. Not really a big deal. But yeah, this is something that I'd like to replace, just because it's eventually, I mean, it's already pretty loose as it is. Eventually it might start making noise and rub against the rotor and be annoying, but for now we'll leave it alone. Now the hardware kit came with all this stuff. There's a little pin in here, so make sure you don't lose that guy. And then when you pull the parking brake, there's just a little lever in here that gets pulled. It pushes against the pin and the other side, and then it just applies the brake. You know, looking at this, it almost looks like the backing plate is cut around this bracket. I don't know for sure, but it has these little tabs here. So it's possible you don't have to pull the axle and all that, but regardless, I don't have a replacement part anyway. I'll look into it. and we'll just have to tackle it some other time. Here's the hardware kit I have. Part number right there. New clip. Then there's a clip underneath that's bolted right behind here to the hub. It sits like that, and then this screw holds it in place. I think this is like an 8 or 7 millimeter. Got our new adjuster here. They give you white grease, they give you the little pins that sit inside of there. And the pin actually, the end of this is going to sit inside the cup because the lever is right in between here. And there's a little cup that this fits inside of. So you'll see when you look down in there. All right. Now I'm going to pop the horseshoe on first because this bracket, this retaining clip that I pulled off the bottom, when the horseshoe is on here, this sits like this, and that's what holds the bottom in. So I'm going to slip this around, get it over the adjuster, then I'm going to come in and secure this at the bottom. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put it on there just loose. Then I could still slip the horseshoe on there. It'll probably be a lot easier. All right, so that's on there loose. Let's get our new brake shoe, horseshoe. And I got the adjustment for this backed all the way off. Pedal is up. Adjuster's all the way down. Try to get it. All right, I'm behind the clip. Let's get these notches lined up where they need to go here. Just like that. Let's get our... You know what? I gotta take the bracket gotta come off anyway. Because I got it in place, but it's not inside the shoe. That is secure. Trying to center them up here. So now to adjust this, just like any kind of drum brakes, I'm gonna get the new rotor, slide it over there, spin it a little bit, see where it sits, and just tighten it up from there until it's just kind of rubbing. Our nice black rotors, these are sprayed with this coating, so you don't have to clean them off with brake cleaner. Once you actually hit the brakes, that coating is going to come off. We're already making noise on the backing plate. Ew. Hopefully that goes away. I'm going to tighten them up a tiny bit. I'm calling that good. So our pads do come with new clips. See? Pins come right out. It's not like they were sticking. For this, just use a wire brush, try to cover your face, or better yet, I'm just going to throw my mask on here. Now it is important you get these landings here clean, because when you put your new clips on, if there's rust or crap under here and those aren't sitting as close to this as they can, your new pads aren't going to slide in. You might think, what's going on? My pads are the wrong size, and you might be tempted to take the ends of them to a grinder, but don't, because clean them up first. Sometimes that does happen where the pads are just too big or they put too much paint on them and they won't go in, and you might have to file them down a little bit. But if you didn't clean the surface here before you put your new clips on, look into that before you go filing anything down. Now, I like to grease this stuff. Some people might not. But when you're throwing the pads in here, if I can find one, I like to just put a little bit of grease right on these contact points so they slide nicely. Kind of up the side, the whole groove that's going to be touching that clip. All right, I'm going to set this aside. Let's give our pins a little grease. You don't want to use anti-seize for this. I'm using just like moly grease or like slider. They make special brake slider grease. Just don't use anti-seize because it dries up and they're going to get stuck in there. All right, that's moving nicely. I think it's time for a glove change. I like a lot of grease in there, kind of get some, enough in there so it comes out and you can have a little residual amount kind of chill inside the boot there. All right, so I flew through the other side. I didn't put this caliper on yet. I decided just to pull the other side apart just so I could kind of equalize the parking brake shoes. So this is all done. I adjusted them as tight as I can get them. There's no drag on them. I can easily slip the rotor on and off. And one thing to note, on this side, it's reversed because being both sides use the same part numbers, this side it's upside down. So the exact same setup, except the adjuster is at the bottom here and the horseshoe bottom is along the top with that clip up here. But the parking brake is all good to go. The backing plate on the other side wasn't as bad, but it is still kind of rotted out and thin around the lip that the rotor slips over. Hopefully these aren't going to give me too much noise. But the brake itself, it's still relatively soft. I mean, there is some tension on it now. Like, I feel resistance, but you can still easily put it to the floor. It might just be a characteristic of the brake. I never owned one of these before, so I'm not exactly familiar with exactly how this should feel. But most cars, you know, you press on it and it kind of gets hard to press down as you feel the shoes touch. This, it just kind of goes to the floor. I checked the adjuster, which is right under the frame here, right there, and that's maxed out. So somebody already maxed that out. The other side, when I pulled it apart, the shoe is actually fully intact. Wasn't missing any of the friction material. But it was heavily out of adjustment. So when I put the new one on there, I had to crank the adjuster out a lot more than it already was. And with it applied, the rotors are locked. So it seems to be working. We'll know in a second. Once I put the calipers on, they're all loaded up and ready to go. Once they're on there, I'll pump the brake. We'll put it in drive with it in the air and the brake on, and we'll see if the rotors will spin. Also, this is a pad from the other side. Not as low as I thought. Mostly they just had kind of cracks in them. Same thing with the one on this side. But yeah, they were pretty low. They weren't like this 10,000 miles ago. I still can't believe I blew through them that quickly. Show your pads slide nicely against the rotor. There should be no hammering involved with this. And I say no hammering because yes, I've seen some shit. You should be able to see your calipers slide nicely. All right, I'm gonna throw the other side together, then let's test that parking brake. All right, so before I drop it down here, let's start it up. and see how the brakes work. I'm just gonna pump it. Get the pistons pushed out. Parking brakes off. Let's pop it in drive. All right, I don't hear any rust at least. No scrapey backing plate noises. We're stopping good. Now let's apply the parking brake. Release the foot brake, still drive. All right. It's holding. Ow! Oh, it's always fun pulling out of here. Fun fact, first time I tried this, not today, but when I first got the garage, I friggin' smacked the mirror against the side of the door. I think I'm gonna have to leave the garbage can over here for a bit. So I bring the Tahoe in again. I had to move the toolbox over. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but it used to be right at the corner there, kind of centered under the cabinet. So I actually had to move it over slightly there, that way the Tahoe fits right in between. And then I can pull it up far enough to walk around the back. Malibu's just been sitting here, minding its own business. I finally got all the parts in for that. So if not the next video, probably the one right after it is when we're going to start breaking into that, because I got the material for the Camaro for the headliner. I got the ABS headliner. I just want to do that, throw it back in. I might make a video on it, I don't know. I know I have the video on that one, so that's why I'm kind of like, it's kind of the same thing, but at the same time it's a good review on the Hawks headliner, so who knows, I might do it. All right, so I found a pretty decent sized hill with it in drive here. I can let go, and we still managed to roll back. So I'm gonna put it in neutral. Let go again. Now we're really rolling back. Let's apply the brake all the way to the floor. Release the foot brake. Oh yeah, it holds. It holds really good. You can actually, you feel it just tightly stop. I'm gonna release it now. Neutral. Parking brake applied. Off the foot brake. That's working perfectly. Oh yeah. So you can see the coating's gone. That looks good. Hopefully these have a lot less dust than whatever the hell was on here before. But yeah, I really like the look of these tires. As I said, they're not as wide, so they don't really hang over, and you have a little more sidewall going up than actually like kind of curling over the edge of the rim. Plus they ride just so much better. I'm gonna put a link to them down below. All right, I had to come in because it's a little windy outside. It's actually starting to rain too. But for anybody who's wondering where the Trans Am is, I'm saving that for the winter project. The Malibu I'm not keeping, so I'm gonna do the oil, the brake lines, just clean it up and get that sold, hopefully relatively quickly. But the Trans Am is gonna be the main winter project, probably along with this. The front end stuff that needs to be done, and just the interior stuff. Eventually the headliner I'll probably do sometime over the winter, if not the spring. It's starting to kind of sag down pretty badly now, so I definitely want to take care of that. But I do plan on setting up an appointment with Tune Time Performance to get the Trans Am on the dyno. We're going to see what it makes. Then I'm going to have James take a look at it, kind of mess with the timing, make sure everything's running 100%. We're going to see just the way it sits now, throw it on the dyno, see what it makes. Then he'll tweak with the distributor the timing. We'll run it again, same day. We'll see if it picks anything up. And that's going to be our baseline. Then over the winter, I'm going to do the interior, get it all cleaned up, and then we're going to start doing engine stuff to it. I have some pretty good ideas, some budget stuff in mind to see what we can really make with it. But I think you guys are going to enjoy it. That's where the Trans Am's going to be. So I didn't sell it. I didn't forget about it. But for now, it's going to do it for this one, guys. I'll see you in a few days.